Hello, everybody. This is the first BIBA vlog in quite some time, and here I am joined by Emerson Sudbury and Forbes Graham, two of our wonderful composers in the hashtag BCMC Black Composer Miniature Challenge. It is not as much of a tongue twister as I make it out to be. So I would love to ask y'all some questions, and I'll start with you, Emerson. I would love for you to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got into composing, where you are right now physically, and all sorts of other good stuff.
Um, so yeah, I only started composing maybe in, God, I guess it was about 2015 or 16, when I was doing my undergrad at Hunter College.
Yeah.
And I was in the music program, and I'd been playing music my whole life. I started playing piano in around first grade, but composing wasn't really something that I thought was available to me, or something that crossed my mind. And then at Hunter, we kind of had a new chair for the music department come in, and one of the first things she did, she created this class that was called Composing for Musicians, basically to like allow musicians who only thought of themselves as performers an opportunity to compose. And she would provide like prompts every week to kind of get you out of the more traditional mindset, especially for people who weren't really listening to new music or contemporary music. And just through that class, I was just like, I discovered that there were so many other ways to create sounds and other ways to organize sounds that I wasn't aware of. And she felt that I had a very serious knack for it. And so she actually encouraged me to consider doing my master's in composition as well. But so that's how I ended up getting into that. And yeah, I am currently in New York City, enjoying this wonderful 90-degree day. And yeah, that's about it.
That's amazing. I hope you're staying cool over there in New York. And same question for you, Forbes.
Let's see. I got into composing. I guess I was composing in high school a little bit because I was in the jazz band in high school. That was kind of my main mission in my musical life, to do that. And I also was very interested in heavy metal, and I wanted to merge the two together. So I started by kind of doing some composing around that. But, you know, being in high school and not necessarily knowing a lot of musicians who necessarily are messing around with both like that, you know, there was a couple of accomplishments in that area at the time, but not a lot. So then fast forward a little bit to my undergrad, and my teacher, my trumpet teacher, because I'm a trumpet player, and that's what I got into school for. My trumpet teacher was bad. He was terrible, and he was giving me pure garbage. And what was crazy about it was that my trumpet teacher that I had in undergrad taught the teacher I had had before him. So the guy I was studying with in the last couple of years of high school. So I get there and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I mean, I didn't go to like a most top tier music school, and I suspect that that's really what was going on. There weren't really that many good trumpet players there. So I switched to composition just because I was like, what is this? So that's how I got into it. And in undergrad, I worked at it, but I didn't work at it as hard as I should. I did avail myself to what I was able to learn in my program. So I definitely discovered a lot of music, and I continue to compose really for a long time. I mean, and I think it's been in the last couple of years, though, that I have really buckled down, I would say, and really worked to develop my ideas as a composer, worked to develop new ideas as a composer, and worked to really be known as a composer. And it's definitely been an avocation that I have gotten a lot of joy out of working towards. So that's, kind of where I'm at now. And I won't give away how long it was that I did my undergrad. It was a while ago, though.
Well, it doesn't matter because you look like you're 25. So
I remember when I told you how old I was.
Black don't crack.
Oh my gosh, you see my dad. And I live in Boston, Massachusetts, and I've been here in New England. I've been in New England for quite some time too, and lived in Boston for about I think 7 or 8 years now.
Excellent, excellent. So now let's talk a little bit about your miniatures. So Emerson, your miniature is Sans Titre. And for me, when I was learning this, I really was attracted to this sense of instability, but also this sense of focus. So I would love for you to talk about your ideas behind this miniature and how it all came to be and whether or not you're happy with the end result.
For sure. So one thing that I guess has kind of been like informing the way I've been approaching composing lately. So when I was doing my master's, I met so many other student composers, and I was introduced to so much music where it sounded like people were just trying to do the most like uncomfortable, dissonant, avant-garde thing just for the sake of doing it. So when working on this piece and with some of the more recent pieces I've written, I've really, I guess, wanted to kind of like return to something that is like more like traditionally pleasant to listen to. Something that's actually like melodic in a very traditional sense. And so that's how I approached writing the piano part. And I've also been trying to incorporate more, I guess, like Black musical traditions into my writing as well. And so even if it's not like very blatantly obvious, the piano line was also very influenced by the blues. And so I was trying to incorporate the blues, have something that's just like very melodic, but still just being a contemporary composer. I was like, there has to be something kind of throwing it off. And so just like incorporating syncopated moments, and then with the viola part, it's a lot of just like heavy pressure bowing at moments that aren't in line with the piano melody as well, where she just kind of comes in and out as she pleases, essentially. And so just trying to find a balance of melody and tradition while still having something to kind of throw things off and feel modern.
I love that. Yeah, this is one of the first pieces I've ever encountered where the heavy bow pressure didn't feel like an interruption. And I think that's a real achievement. So thank you so much for writing this miniature. And Forbes, your miniature is Donna and Clifford. So when I first heard this, I was so impressed by the duality that you got in such a short time period and the subtle wit that's in this miniature. And I would love for you to talk about who are Donna and Clifford and how the piece came up, and if I'm correct in saying that there's a little bit of wit in this miniature.
A little bit. So basically I kind of crafted this from a transcription of a Clifford Brown solo on Donna Lee, the jazz standard. So the Donna is Donna Lee, the tune, and Clifford is Clifford Brown, and that's where it comes from. And so in the sense of there, maybe the wit is a little bit of that, and certainly there's a whimsy in the way that it kind of the melodies work. And so, what I find, in terms of what you're saying, you have this sort of, it's all, I wouldn't quite say it's a roller coaster ride, but it's kind of got those fits and starts, and then sort of at the end, you almost are are like ending the roller coaster ride, and so you kind of come down and you slow down, and then you're like, okay, I'm done with the roller coaster ride. And that's sort of like the feel of how it works. But yes, that's really what it was. And I used kind of some matrix transformations to kind of take the material and manipulate it around to do that. And so it's interesting in terms of what you're saying, Emerson, because um, there's a certain similarity in that I also kind of mind what we might call the Black tradition in a way for this piece, in a way that's not necessarily blatantly obvious, but that the minute I said this is all kind of like, oh yeah, of course, like that makes sense. So it's something that sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't. And certainly, I kind of have these subtle hints of things. Like most of my pieces are dedicated to Black people. Like this piece is dedicated to Arna Bontom, the writer from the Harlem Renaissance. So there's always these little something somewhere that's kind of doing that. But this one I really wanted to, and I've been working that book a little bit, and boy, those solos are impossible. Like, I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, just so much talent all around. And I'm really glad that you mentioned Arna Bontemps. That whole crew with Countee Cullen and Langston Hughes, and of course Zora Neale Hurston and the women of the Harlem Renaissance had such a big impact on who we are as Black men living and creating in 2021, right? And I think it's great when sometimes we set off and have these creative projects and we're going to say, we are definitely going to bring in some Black idioms, but it's also great to just create and have that Blackness shine through us because we are Black and we are part of this long lineage. And we need to own that too.
I agree completely. And I mean, and I think that part of the, everybody has their own approach. And I think the more of us that are able to create and able to gain some visibility, the more that the world will see that. And for me, I want to situate what I'm doing in a continuum that includes those people you were just mentioning. So however way I'm doing anything is whatever it ends up being. But I definitely want to at least include it in a continuum that involves that.
Definitely, definitely. So I think this will be the last and final question. So Emerson, have you ever worked with miniature before? And what was your general response to the hashtag BCMC?
So I've actually never written a miniature before. I know while I was still a student, some of the early pieces that I wrote just for like in-class assignments were typically short pieces. We're not writing like an 8-minute like solo anything piece. But I definitely, the second I saw this posted online, the challenge posted online, I have to do this. Simply because the idea of like working with such a constraint like that, it almost forces you to like take each thing you're writing, each note you're writing so much more seriously, because you're working with such a limited amount of time. So everything has to be as impactful and intentional as possible, or not if that's like your choice, but like as a creative statement where it's just like actually none of this needs to really have any impact, it's just free floating here. But so I did definitely want to do it as a challenge to myself, also because I had never written anything for piano before. I've just been avoiding writing for the piano for so long, because the piano repertoire is just so expansive. What can you really add to it? But so seeing something for piano, keeping it within like 30 seconds, I was like, there's no way I can not do this. So thank you guys for bringing that all together.
Yeah, you are not the first Black composer that I've heard say that about the piano. And as a pianist, I also don't write that much for piano solo, really. But if I were to give you a tip, you should definitely write for toy piano because there's not that much repertoire out there for toy piano, especially by Black composers.
Hmm.
And I now own 3 toy pianos, and each of them have their own unique personality, and they have different ranges, and they have different colors. And it is a fascinating, fascinating world. So I'll just drop that little tip right there on you.
Thank you.
I might have to do that.
Yeah, and feel free to call me. I'm hungry now for this repertoire. So, and same question to you, Forbes. Have you ever worked with miniature, and what's your general reaction after this whole hashtag BCMC?
I think I did one miniature before this for soprano voice. So this was miniature number 2. And I think really my reaction was in a lot of ways gratitude, because as somebody who's really trying to get a foot in the door, this was just an excellent opportunity to do that, because first of all, the shortness allows you, because I tend to, I'm a big procrastinator, get misdirected and stuff. So 30 seconds, it's like, okay, this is a attainable thing. Just knowing that I'm trying to find the right way to put it, but just like the sense of community that's you have fostered is, it's just helpful to somebody who maybe doesn't have the connections, doesn't have the network, and those type of things. So that's really what made this even more meaningful to me, and something that was just a real blessing for me. So yeah, I mean, I think miniatures, and too, the pandemic, just started earlier in the pandemic, where people were just kind of trying. They're like, we got to do something, and miniatures seemed like a really practical thing to do. But this set of miniatures was just a really interesting group of miniatures, a really wide ranging with a lot of different type of people, and also, just like I said, it's just something that you never know who's out there, and so I'm just glad that you guys were out there for me and for some of the other people who were able to get an opportunity that they maybe wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, that means so, so much to me and to the organization as well. So thank you so much for creating your beautiful piece. Thank the both of you for participating in this. And all of you watchers out there, if you would like to support hashtag BCMC, we have our anthology that is now available for a digital download, where you can see the scores that both Emerson and Forbes and the other 16 incredible composers have created for this project. Share, post, spread the word, do the things so that we can get some support from you all. And we're going to drop the second hashtag BCMC next month, and those will be for pieces for flute and harp.
Woo!
Yes. All right. Thank you for participating in this vlog, and we will sign out and catch you on the flip side.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, y'all.
Yeah.